G'day guys and welcome back to a new episode of The Review, and today of course we are here to review round 22. A lot of big games over the weekend, a lot of ladder deciding games, and to start things off, the Swans v Collingwood set up for an elimination final for the Pies and a real get back to business game for the Sydney Swans. And despite Collingwood leading throughout the majority of the second half, the Swans were able to snatch the win in the end by 3 points. In the end, the scores were 89 to the Swans, 86 to Collingwood. Now, there weren't any injury concerns from this game, so let's get straight into it. The Swans really brought the pressure early in this game, which was a real big response from their smashing last week against Port Adelaide. And Collingwood looked really scratchy in the first 10 minutes of this game. The Swans did kick the first 2 goals of it. However, the Pies slowly worked their way into the contest and not only kicked 5 of the next 6 goals in the first quarter, but did lead by 13 points at quarter time. Now, the Swans kicked 3 quick goals to start the second quarter to regain the lead, but then the Pies tried to turn the game into a lot more of a grind for Sydney. They couldn't get their ball movement game working, which was really evident by the great pressure Collingwood were putting on the Swans. And despite only kicking 1 goal in the second quarter, Collingwood, they still led it to the halftime break by 3 points. But in the second half, to start things off, Collingwood absolutely blitzed Sydney. They kicked 3 goals in pretty quick succession and took the game to a game-high 22-point lead at that stage. Now, the Swans did wrestle back a little bit of momentum to bring the margin back under 10 points, but the Pies ended the quarter strongly and led by 21 points at three-quarter time. And after the Pies kicked the first goal of the last quarter, the game looked all but over. The Swans didn't look like they had anything left. They looked sluggish. They looked like they've given up on the game. But after the 14-minute mark of the last quarter, the Swans absolutely blitzed Collingwood. Led by their stars, Warner, Goulden and Heaney. And also alongside them was the veteran former captain in Luke Parker. The Swans were absolutely brilliant and their brilliance was on full display. And the Swans kicked 5 goals in the space of 14 minutes of play to snatch the win away from Collingwood and hold on by 3 points. So, great win from Sydney. They probably didn't deserve to win this game. I thought Collingwood were brilliant throughout the majority of the second half. But a great blitz from their star players really came to the fore in the last quarter. Now, that 50-metre penalty, I think it's probably there. But also, get over yourselves. I bet you all the Collingwood supporters who are angry about that were saying, oh, well, look, the AFL said it wasn't 50, so you're wrong. So, get over it. It's kind of karma. At the end of the day, I'm going to get a lot of comments for that. I'm sorry. You weren't going to make fun of me anyway. I'm going to get comments for that too. Anyway, let's move to the statistics in this game. Top scorer at the end was Isaac Heaney. Massive game from him. Massive last quarter as well. We'll get to that in a moment with the 127. Chad Warner with the 114. Darcy Cameron with the 108. Josh Dacos with the 98. Nick Blakey with the 95. And then Matt Roberts with the 91. Now, of course, we get to the votes. And, of course, as we've said every single week, we're doing a 3-1 voting system for every single game of the AFL season. And at the end of the season and going the bye in between the season and the finals, we'll be doing a live countdown of the Boundary Riders votes. And we'll get our second ever Boundary Riders medalists. But nonetheless, let's get to the votes in the Sydney v Collingwood game. So, 3 votes in the end went to Isaac Heaney, 2 votes went to Steele Sidebottom, and the 1 vote went to Darcy Cameron. Now, first of all, Darcy Cameron was very good in the first 3 quarters, and I think he had some really important moments in the last quarter, so that's why he got the 1 vote. He was very close with Chad Warner, but I thought Darcy Cameron was brilliant throughout the whole night. Steele Sidebottom did an amazing job on Errol Goulden for the first 3.5 quarters. If it wasn't for that goal that Goulden kicked, though, he probably would have got the 3 votes, but that was the coster in the end. And Isaac Heaney with the 3 votes. He had a pretty good game up to three-quarter time, but 14 disposals in the last quarter, a goal that got them right back into the contest. He was brilliant, and Isaac Heaney, in my opinion, deserved the 3 votes in the end. So now to the first game on Saturday, guys, was the Lions up against the Giants. A massive clash between 2 top 4 sides, and despite the Lions dominating the majority of the first half of this game, the Giants were able to claw their way back into it, just stay in touch, and in the end, ran over the top of them and won by 18 points. 82 to the Giants, 64 to the Brisbane Lions. So let's get to the game itself. The Lions, like I said, started extremely strongly, especially in the first quarter. They dominated over the footy and pretty much in every single aspect of the game. But the only problem they didn't do is put it on the scoreboard, as they ended on 4-7 at quarter time. But this honestly had shades of the game last week between Port Adelaide and the Sydney Swans. A lot of the statistics were pointing in that direction, but the Giants were lucky enough to only be down by 30 points at quarter time. And it was a good response from GWS in the second quarter, as they kicked 3 quick goals early in the quarter and kicked 4 in a row to get right back into the contest. But the Brisbane Lions steadied throughout the rest of the quarter, and at halftime, the Lions led by 11 points. Now, it was a really tight contest in the third term, but we only saw 1 goal kicked in the first 15 minutes of it. But it was still a pretty entertaining game of footy. And the Giants finished this quarter off really strongly with the final 2 goals of it, and were only down by 8 points at three-quarter time. Now, the Lions were pretty wayward in front of goal in the third term, though, kicking 1 goal for. Now, heading into the final quarter, the Lions kicked the first goal of it, but then the Giants came storming back into this game. The Lions really would rue their chances that they missed in front of goals. The Giants would kick 6 goals in a row, led by their young guns in Darcy Jones and Aaron Cadman, combining for 5 goals in the final quarter to drag their team over the line and win by 18 points. So this is a really good performance from the Giants after quarter time. They were absolutely smashed in the first quarter. We actually saw an old-fashioned spray from Adam Kingsley to his team, and it really got a response out of them. In the second term, they did really well to bring their contest to the game. And the Brisbane Lions, to be honest, they should have won this game. In the end, the Giants were just too good in the end just to push forward and just win this game. So a great win from the Giants. Brisbane, I think they'll be fine. I think they kind of were due for a loss. They got 9 in a row, but that was a pretty disappointing performance from the Lions after quarter time. They should have put this game to bed by then. But moving to the statistics of this game, the only 100 scorer in the AFL fantasy front was Will Ashcroft with the 111, Finn Callaghan with the 99, Tom Green with the 98, Charlie Cameron with the 92, Josh Dunkley with the 92 as well, and then Jared Berry with the 91. So let's get to the votes in this game. 3 votes went to Sam Taylor, 2 votes went to Finn Callaghan, and the 1 vote went to Will Ashcroft. Now, Sam Taylor, again, you probably look at the statistics, probably don't think he's done a lot in this game, but he led from the front down back. After quarter time, when they were pretty well smashed, he really stood up and just did everything he could to get his team over the line. A lot of times it went forward for Brisbane. They couldn't get past Sam Taylor. He was like a wall back there. So in my opinion, he deserved the 3 votes. But getting to the next game, another close one, another come from behind victory. All the games so far this round have been from behind. And in the end, North Melbourne, who led for the majority of this one, fell short in the last quarter as West Coast kicked 3 goals in 2 minutes to steal the win against North Melbourne. 102 to West Coast, 97 to North Melbourne. Now, the Eagles did kick the first 2 goals of this game, but the Roos really would work their way into it as the quarter progressed. And the Roos kicked 4 of the last 5 goals in the quarter and went into quarter time with a 5-point lead. Now, into the second term, we didn't actually see a goal halfway through the quarter, but North Melbourne would break the deadlock, and not only that, but would kick the only 3 goals of the quarter. And at half-time, North Melbourne did lead by 22 points. But the West Coast Eagles missed so many chances in that term and kicked 5 behind, so they really had their opportunities to stay in touch. Now, the Kangaroos kicked the first 2 goals of the second half to extend their lead over to 36 points. But the Eagles started to claw their way back and get into their groove midway through the third term. And with the West Coast Eagles kicking 5 of the last 6 goals in the third quarter, heading into the final change, the Eagles were only down by 11 points. And when the Eagles kicked the first 2 goals of the final term, it set up for a grandstand finish. Both teams were tied up. But I don't think really anyone would have expected the way that this game would have ended in the last quarter, as we saw 11 goals kicked between both teams. And when the Kangaroos led by 13 points with under 2 minutes to go, I really felt like everyone would have thought that North Melbourne were going to hold on here. But what a fight back it was from the Eagles. They kicked 2 goals in the space of 30 seconds to get back within a point. And then we saw Andrew Gaff going back with the flight, taking a brilliant mark inside their forward 50. It was just too far out to score, so he kicked long, where it got tapped back into play. Oscar Allen crumbed it brilliantly, snapped on goal, kicked his 5th goal for the game, 5th goal for the second half, and in the end, they were able to win, and he won it off his own boot there, Oscar Allen. Brilliant performance from the West Coast Eagles to come back from where they were. They were 13 points down, so over 2 goals behind with under 2 minutes to go. Brilliant comeback win there from the West Coast Eagles. Jared Schofield gets his 2nd win in a row as West Coast interim coach, so he's getting a good audition out there. North Melbourne, they'll rue that loss. They should have won this game. It was an absolute steal from the West Coast Eagles, and North Melbourne really disappointing after they should have really won this one. But moving to the statistics of this game, top AFL fantasy scorer was Tristan Cherry, as he's done for the majority of the year, with a massive 169. Harry Sheezel with the 123, McKercher with the 111, Powell with the 105, McGovern with the 98, and then Paul Curtis with the 93. But let's get to the votes in this game. 3 votes went to Jeremy McGovern, 2 votes went to Harry Sheezel, and the 1 vote went to Oscar Allen. Now, yes, Oscar Allen kicked 5 goals, but he got all of them in the second half. If it wasn't for Jeremy McGovern leading down back throughout the whole game, he had, I think, 13 intercept possessions, 25 overall, was a real reason why the West Coast Eagles were able to stay in this game. So that's why he got 3 votes. Harry Sheezel, he was by far the best player on the ground, in my opinion. That's why he got the 2. And Oscar Allen, just unfortunate, really. I mean, most 5-well games get you 3 votes, but I just felt like in the end, it was done majority in the second half, but he deserves so much kudos. Great captaincy, great performance from Oscar Allen, and a great win from the West Coast Eagles. So Saturday twilight game was between Fremantle and Geelong, and despite this game being close for the majority of the contest, the Cats were able to break away with the last couple of goals in this game to win by 11 points. Geelong 73, Fremantle 62. There was one injury concern from this game, which was Tanner Bruin, who received a head knock in the third quarter, and he was subbed out with concussion soon after. But getting to the game itself, the Cats started really well in this one with the first 4 goals of the game, and with the pressure that the Cats were bringing early, this looked like a great start for Geelong. But Fremantle did well enough to kick the last 2 goals of the quarter, and at quarter time, Geelong only led by 13 points. Now, Fremantle really lifted their pressure around the ball in the second quarter, which was really needed, and they went on to kick 3 of the first 4 goals of the quarter to draw level with Geelong. But the Cats were able to hit back with the final goal of the quarter, and at half-time, Geelong led by 5 points. Now, Fremantle did kick the first 2 goals of the second half to hit the front for the first time in the game, but it was short-lived as the Cats would quickly respond on their own. But unfortunately for Geelong, they really couldn't extend their lead by anything meaningful as they kicked 3 behinds in a row, and with Jai Amos kicking a goal late in the third term, the Dockers would lead by 4 points at three-quarter time. Now, as you can tell, this game was pretty close throughout the majority of the game, as neither team led by over 2 goals for the majority of it. And in the last term, after seeing both teams trading goals, it was really set for a great finish. And midway through the quarter, the Cats would take the lead, but couldn't put Fremantle away as they kicked another 3 points in a row, including a shocking miss by Paddy Dangerfield from about 10 metres out. But the Cats finally put this game to bed, courtesy of a late goal from Sean Manor to give Geelong a massive win by 11 points. And this gives them a real chance now to hit the top 4 and even top 2, depending on how results go. This season's been so crazy. And a great win from Geelong, and Fremantle fall right back into the pack right now. There was even talks of maybe their first ever premiership from this team this year, but right now they're really going to struggle to make that top 4 after this loss. They really needed to win this one. Great win from Geelong though. Great performance. But moving to the statistics of this game, top scorer in the end was Luke Ryan with the 152, Jordan Clark with the 126, Jeremy Sharp with the 112, Caleb Sarong with the 103, Brian Myers with the 97, and then Heath Chapman with the 88. Now let's get to the votes in this game. 3 votes went to Patrick Dangerfield, 2 votes went to Caleb Sarong, and the 1 vote went to Luke Ryan. Now, Patrick Dangerfield had a pretty good game for the majority of it, but his last quarter was absolutely brilliant. Led from the front as captain, great performance from Patrick Dangerfield, and he deserves so much credit for that last quarter. After that, to the first absolute blinding game on Saturday night, Essendon against the Gold Coast Suns. What a finish this one was. Essendon really should have won this one, but the Gold Coast, courtesy of a Mac Andrew goal after the siren, won by 1 point. 87 to the Gold Coast Suns, 86 to Essendon. Now, Gold Coast actually really started well in this game. They kicked the first goal of it, but we really had a high-scoring first quarter with 8 goals between both the teams. And after both teams did trade goals in the first term, at quarter time, the Suns did lead by 1 point. Now, Essendon did quickly take the lead in the second term, but it was a real game of little parts of momentum. The Suns kicked 2 goals, then Essendon would respond, took control back, and did kick the final 3 goals of the second term. And at half-time, Essendon did lead by 11 points. But more importantly, we saw a massive melee between both teams. It was really exciting. Probably not as bad as the one we saw in the derby a few weeks ago, but it's good to see that both teams were trying to stand up for their club. But the Suns were the team to respond quickly after half-time with 2 goals to regain the lead. And despite Essendon taking the lead back, the Suns kicked another 2 goals, and despite missing some chances throughout the third term, they still led by 4 points at three-quarter time. Now, Essendon did quickly respond, kicking the first goal of the final term, but missed so many crucial chances in this last quarter, Essendon. They finished on 1 goal 9. They had so many opportunities to put the Gold Coast away, but just couldn't do it. Absolutely terrible in front of goal. And the Gold Coast, the few chances that they had, they actually took. They kicked the last 2 goals of this game, but considering Essendon kicked, I think, 6 behinds before Gold Coast got that final opportunity is pretty embarrassing, if I'm being honest. And of course, the Mac Andrew moment. The Collins kick inside the forward 50 was an absolute mung, but Mac Andrew, who was pretty controversial throughout the whole game, was pushing players around up forward, was pretty high emotion from him. But he took his moment, and a great finish from Mac Andrew, kicked the 4 goals, great performance from him, and the Gold Coast finally get their first win away from home. And Essendon, another wasted year, really unfortunate for them. It's really sad for Essendon fans. But getting to the statistics of this game, top scorer in the end was Zach Merritt with the 134, Nick Martin with the 127, Matt Rowell with the 122, Mason Redmond with the 108, Clousey with the 99, and then Darcy Parish with the 98. Now let's get to the votes in this game. 3 votes went to Matt Rowell, 2 votes went to Zach Merritt, and the 1 vote went to Mac Andrew. That goal after the siren got him the 1 vote. Great performance from Mac Andrew, and he has had a brilliant year. Down in defence early, but now it's been chucked forward, and he's actually doing really well up there, giving them a target. And then to the final game on Saturday, it was Melbourne v Port Adelaide. Probably one of the worst entertaining games I've ever seen, really, between Melbourne and Port Adelaide. It was a really low-scoring game, But in the end, Port Adelaide did enough to win this one, 53-51. There was one injury concern from this game, which was Todd Marshall. Actually, he had to go down with a scat test after getting a big hit in the second term, and he was actually subbed out soon after with concussion. But moving to the game itself, on a usual cool night in Melbourne, both teams really struggled to score a goal, as both teams traded behind early in the contest, but finally Melbourne would break the deadlock with the first 2 goals of this game. But to Port Adelaide's credit, they did respond with 2 of their own, and at quarter time, the Power did lead by a point. Now, Port Adelaide kicked the first goal of the second term, but missed a lot of chances as they kicked 1 goal for throughout the quarter. And the Demons, when they had their chances, they took them. They kicked 2 goals straight, but absolutely made this a slog in the second quarter. But to the Demons' credit, they led by 3 points at half time. Now, the Demons' pressure was immense in the third term. It was pretty good in the first half, but it was a lot better in the third quarter. But both teams only kicked 2 goals straight each in the third quarter, which still gave Melbourne that 3-point advantage at three-quarter time. Now, Port Adelaide did kick the first goal of the final term pretty quickly, but Melbourne would respond by kicking 1 back in quick succession. But again, pretty similar to the Essendon game, not as bad, but Melbourne just couldn't put Port Adelaide away. They kicked 3 behinds in a row, which gave them a 5-point lead with about 5 or 10 minutes to go in this one. But Port Adelaide did respond by getting back in front, and despite Port Adelaide missing some chances to put this game to bed, they were able to hold on in the final moments and hold on by 2 points. So Port Adelaide, I mean, what was it, 5 weeks ago, people were calling for Ken Hinkley's job. I'm still not convinced that he's going to keep his job, Ken Hinkley. Obviously, finals are a more important part of his coaching tenure, but they have done really well to turn around their season. It looked like they were going to miss finals about 5 or 6 weeks ago, and now they're top 2. So great play from Port Adelaide, and Melbourne, unfortunately, their season is done. But moving to the statistics of this game, Jason Horne-Francis with the 141, Max Gawn with the 118 along with Travis Boak, then Houston with the 115, Rosie with the 113, and then Keziah Pickett with the 111. Now let's get to the votes in this game. 3 votes went to Max Gawn, 2 votes went to Jason Horne-Francis, and the 1 vote went to Keziah Pickett. Now the reason why Max Gawn has actually got 3 votes here despite being in a losing team is he did absolutely everything to try and get his team over the line here. He's been playing injured for a lot of this year. He's an absolute warrior. Great performance from Max Gawn. But Jason Horne-Francis, can't count him out. 28 touches, 25 of them were kicks. You don't see that very much anymore. A lot of them are just crappy handballs, but he got on a lot of it. 2 goals as well. Jason Horne-Francis is going to be a future star, and great performance from him as well. But great job from Port Adelaide, top 2 right now. So moving into Sunday, guys, what an absolute letdown from the round Sunday was, as so many close games we had over Friday and Saturday. Sunday afternoon, we had Hawthorn up against Carlton, and what a shellacking Hawthorn handed out to the Blues. A massive performance from the Young Hawks, 112 to them, 38 to Carlton, and it was absolute carnage on the Carlton bench. We have 4 injuries to take a look at. First of all, it was Jack Martin. He was subbed out in the second term with a hamstring. We had Lockie Fogarty come off in the second term, and he was ruled out. Then we had Charlie Curnow, who had an ankle concern in the early stages of the third term. He had a twisting motion when going to make a lead, and he was ruled out of the contest with an ankle injury. And then we had Adam Saad ruled out with a hamstring injury in the last quarter. Absolute carnage for Carlton, but there's a lot more worries at hand as we'll get into that right now. Hawthorn started strongly in this game with the first 2 goals of it and had a lot of territory through the early proceedings of this game. But Carlton did get 2 goals back in response to make it all square, but then both teams traded goals late in the first quarter, but Hawthorn still led by 2 points. After a few behinds either way in the second quarter, Hawthorn really started to take full control. Hawthorn kicked the only 5 goals of the second term, and Carlton looked all at sea. They weren't willing to put on pressure on the young Hawthorn side, and Carlton couldn't keep up. And at halftime, Hawthorn led by 33 points. Now, Carlton somewhat stopped the rot with getting the first goal of the second half, but Hawthorn weren't letting Carlton get anywhere near closer as they continued to pile on the pain. Hawthorn kicked 4 goals in a row heading into three-quarter time as they led by a whopping 55 points. And in the last quarter, it just continued on. Now, granted, Carlton only had 1 fit player on the bench by this stage, but Hawthorn was still just brilliant. They kicked 4 goals to 1 in the final term and ran out winners by 74 points. So with this massive win from Hawthorn, they've actually jumped Carlton into the 8 with their percentage. Great win from Hawthorn. One of the most exciting teams to watch this year in Carlton. What an absolute drop-off. I think I saw a statistic that they were in the top 2 by round 14, and now they are 9th on the ladder. We'll take a look at the ladder in a minute, but really disappointing for the Blues. Getting to the AFL fantasy statistics, though, top scorer was Matt Kennedy with the 134, Dylan Moore with the 132, Connor McDonald with the 118, Nick Newman with the 116, Sicily with the 114, and then D'Ambrosio with the 106. Now let's get to the votes in this game. 3 votes went to Dylan Moore, 2 votes went to Jarman Impey, and the 1 vote went to Jack Gunston. Now he only kicked 3 goals in this game, Jack Gunston, but he was so brilliant up forward, not only just playing his dangerous role, but he was brilliant with his defensive role on Jacob Wiedering. Didn't have much influence on this game, Wiedering, and really made him accountable. So a great job from Jack Gunston, deserving of the 1 vote. After that, we get to the Tigers versus St Kilda, and St Kilda were able to run away from the Tigers in the end, win by 48 points. 99 to the Saints, 51 to the Tigers. Now, the Saints started off quite strong in this game with the first 2 goals of it, but Richmond did well enough to respond with 2 of their own. But on the Tigers side, they missed a lot of chances, winning a lot of the territory battle in the first quarter, but not putting it on the scoreboard. And in fact, at quarter time, St Kilda did lead by 1 goal. Now, the Saints took the advantage in the second term with the first 3 goals of the quarter, but luckily for the Tigers' sake, they were able to wrestle back a little bit of the control and reduce the margin to 14 points at half-time. Now, the Tigers kicked the first goal of the second half, but again, as soon as they would draw closer, St Kilda would try to break away. The Saints kicked 4 of the last 5 goals, heading into three-quarter time, leading by 24 points. And then the Saints really put the Tigers to the sword in the final quarter. Not only did they keep the Tigers goalless, but really piled on the pain. They kicked the only 4 goals of it and ran out winners by 48 points. So really good from St Kilda. They've really done well to make this last end of the season sort of surge. They've done it really well to resurge their season. They look like they could have even been finishing bottom 3 at some point. But right now, they've done really well to just jump up. About 14th spot, they're probably going to finish. So a good effort from them. Still a pretty disappointing season, though. Moving to the statistics of this game, top scorer was Rowan Marshall with the 140, Daniel Rioli with the 135, Jack Sinclair with the 116, Battle with the 110, Dow with the 101, and then Jack Steele with the 99. Now we're getting to the votes in this game. My brother gave the votes for this one because I was watching the other game. We had Rowan Marshall with the 3 votes. 2 votes went to Josh Battle and the 1 vote went to Daniel Rioli. To the final game of round 22, guys. A bit of an upset, I would say. It was the Crows up against the Bulldogs, and the Crows ran out massive winners in the end by 39 points. Adelaide 111, the Bulldogs 72. There was one injury concern from this game, which was Taylor Walker. He actually did an eye injury, got a whack to the eye in the second term. Tried to come back on, but eventually would be subbed out in the third quarter. But getting to the game itself, both teams traded goals early, but Adelaide really took the ascendancy halfway through the quarter as they kicked 4 goals in a row and actually led them to a 22-point lead at quarter time. Now, the Dogs had a chance to wrestle back some momentum in the second quarter, but would kick 2 behinds, and the Crows went down the other end and kicked the goal to wrestle back that momentum, and the Bulldogs continued to make mistakes as they did kick 3 behinds in a row before finally getting their second goal to get back within 19 points. But the Crows did pull away to a 32-point lead late in the quarter, but luckily for the Dogs, Bontempelli kicked a goal on the siren at half-time to bring it back to 26. And despite the Dogs getting the first goal of the second half, the Crows would continue to extend their lead. The Crows jumped out at one point to over a 5-goal lead, and when the Crows kicked 2 goals in the final minute in the third quarter, the game looked all but done, leading by 41 points at three-quarter time. And in the last quarter, it was a lot more of the same for the majority of it, with the Crows continuing to take their opportunities in front of goal, and the Dogs continued to miss time and time again. But the Dogs in the final 10 minutes did kick straighter. They kicked the final 3 goals of this game to make the scoreboard look a little bit more respectable, but it was all about Adelaide in the end as they ran out by 39 points. Now, I didn't really mention it throughout the little recap there, but the Bulldogs and the Crows, it was basically a game of missed opportunities. The Crows kicked 17 goals 9, the Bulldogs kicked 9 goals 18. So they had more scoring shots in the end. They also had more inside 50s, the Bulldogs. They had a lot of opportunities in this game to probably even, I wouldn't say win it, because I don't think you can lose by, 6.5 goals and have a chance to win a game. But they really missed this opportunity here, the Bulldogs. They needed to cement their spot inside the 8, and right now they fall right back to the pack. But let's get to the statistics in this game. And on the AFL fantasy front, Jordan Dawson top scored equal with Marcus Bontempelli with the 126, Lockie Scholl with the 118, Riley O'Brien with the 111, Ben Keys with the 106, and then Tom Liberatore with the 96. But now, guys, let's get to the votes in this game. 3 votes went to Jordan Dawson, 2 votes went to Darcy Fogarty, and the 1 vote went to Ben Keys. But guys, with that being said, at the end of round 22, let's get to the ladder. And it is me and my brother's team up in the top 2 spots. The Swans are in top spot with their win, getting back on the winners board on 60 points. The Power just 1 win behind now on 56. In a logjam now with the Giants in 3rd and the Cats in 4th. The Brisbane Lions with their defeat after their 9-win streak dropped down into 5th spot. The Dockers now fall back into the pack into 6th spot. The Dogs, they're in a tenuous position right now. They do have a good percentage, but they are in 7th. Hawthorn jumped into the 8, came out of nowhere. The Blues have dropped from the face of the earth. They've dropped into 9th. Bombers,
There is still a bit of a chance with their results going their way. They're in 10th. Collingwood, again, they're probably a slight chance, but probably a bit too far. They're in 11th. Gold Coast too far away now, in 12th. Melbourne 13th. St Kilda 14th. Crows 15th. West Coast 16th. North Melbourne 17th. And then the Tigers still locked rock bottom of the ladder. But guys, that is the end of the review for round 22. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. If you watch this over on YouTube, make sure to like and subscribe. And if you are listening over on Spotify, make sure to leave us 5 stars because I asked really nicely. And chuck us a follow so you're notified on the review every week and the podcast. But again, thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. And we'll catch us all next week.